Of the city of Lake Stevens
the ordinances for the city of Lake Stevens,
and the mission and regulations
the mission and regulations
of the Lake Stevens Police Department,
of the Lake Stevens Police Department.
and that I will faithfully and impartially
I will faithfully and impartially
perform and discharge the duties
perform and discharge the duties
of Lake Stevens Police Officer
of the Lake Stevens Police Officer
according to law
according to the law
and the best of my ability.
and the best of my ability. Thank you.
Good job, sir.
Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone.
Congratulations, and
Thank you.
hope to see you back here.
All right, with that, I'll hand the helm over to Council President.
All right, with that,
I'm getting into sailing. I'm figuring that out.
with that, next on the agenda, as a result of our retreat, we were talking about the fireworks and came to a conclusion that we would drop a new ordinance that would have some penalties and so forth and some guidance. And so with that, I'll turn it over to the city attorney.
Okay, the ordinance that, this draft ordinance that we prepared, as you can see, it adds a new section to our fireworks chapter. And it prohibits the use and discharge of consumer fireworks. That's the fireworks that people legally can go buy and shoot off during the restricted times of the year. Prohibits their use and discharge on all city property, including right of ways. So that's, you see down here, the North Curve Park, any other park, any other city-owned lot or property. And then it goes on to prohibit the possession of those fireworks on city-owned properties. In other words, you couldn't carry them into the park. If you just had them in your possession, that would be a violation. You are permitted under this ordinance to possess in the right of way. I mean, it would be difficult to say you can't possess it in the right of way because people have to get fireworks from wherever they bought it to their homes or take it from their homes to wherever they're going to discharge. So we made that exception for the right of way. There's an amendment of the section in the park code to identify that consumer fire works are regulated in chapter 9 in 945. Yeah. But so that's clear. Sarah Garceau, our Parks Director, mentioned after I had drafted this that there are, besides explosive type items, there are things that may be thrown, like they may be axe. What did you suggest? Axe throwing competitions or other things that may be permitted in the parks at different times. So in the ordinance that's being passed out around, I added some language under section 2 and at the end of the first a sentence that you can't do these things, throw projectiles or shoot or fire any bow or an arrow, baby gun, and so on and so forth, without a permit. So if there was a permit issued by the Parks Department for that sort of activity, that would be permitted. But and then we amended the penalty section in 940 so that it would provide for both a civil and a criminal penalty, and the city would have the option of which they chose. I know some of you have looked at the maximum penalties for under the civil, which is $250 a day, and we came to that amount because there is Washington case law that says that if the civil fine is more than that, then it's really looks like a criminal penalty. And if you have the indigent person and so forth, they're entitled to appointment of indigent defense counsel. So that's why the fine is kept to that amount. If the person committed multiple violations, they could be cited for and given multiple civil penalties, but if you raise the civil penalty higher than that, then you get into incurring additional expenses in the cost of the prosecution or proving the case. So that's why that number is there.
So Greg, when you talk about consumer fireworks,
Yes.
what about illegal fireworks?
Well, if they're illegal, they're already, it's already a violation of law for people to have them, to use them or discharge them. So we don't need to provide an additional provision or a code for that.
Doesn't that get back to the fines that are able?
Well, that would be, right. That's probably if somebody has illegal fireworks, then that's probably going to be a criminal citation rather than civil.
Would that be alcohol, tobacco, firearms? Would that be under that?
No, it would fall under the Washington statutes that prohibit the possession and discharge of those types of items. But so we did need the gist of what I understood you wanted to address was people using during the 4th of July period, when fireworks are permitted during use during that particular time, that they were not going to be using them on our city property, particularly in our parks.
I guess that's the crux, though. I mean, we were specifically talking about the illegal fireworks that cause the problem, not the stuff that you buy up at, the parking lot up at Safeway or whatever. And I guess that kind of gets back to Councilmember Donahue's question is we haven't been enforcing that. So that's kind of our issue for bringing this forward, right?
Right. I feel very loud right now. As a practical matter, though, if someone were cited under this and they possess non-consumer grade fireworks, that would effectively, I believe, force them to argue in court that this ordinance doesn't apply, that code section doesn't apply because they had illegal fireworks.
Right. They would be cited under this.
Or if they weren't, it was mistaken, though, the argument would be, I had illegal fireworks, therefore it doesn't apply. I wouldn't make that argument.
So if I'm at Lundin Park and I have fireworks that I just bought from the stand up at Safeway, that would fall under this,
Right.
your consumer fireworks.
Right.
But if I have mortars and stuff from Boom City, those would be illegal.
Right.
Those would fall under the illegal. So what code would I get cited under that?
That's under the RCWs. I don't know, Chief, if we have any experience with that. There are statutes that are both misdemeanor and felony statutes for depending on what you have. But no, they wouldn't be, that wouldn't be cited under this kind of ordinance.
Is there any reason we couldn't cite all fireworks under this ordinance? Why restrict it like that to consumer fireworks?
Because illegal fireworks are already taken care of.
Do we have to put consumer in there? Can't it just say fireworks? I think is what you're asking. Is that correct?
It is, but I understand his response. And I guess so the purpose of this was the lower burden of proof because it's easier to prosecute and hopefully more enforceable that way. So if we wanted to kind of umbrella all fireworks under this, could we do that or is it preempted?
Greg, we wouldn't be able
Well-
to do that because of the civil penalty, right? We can't be less than what the state is.
Right.
It's preempted. Okay.
If that's where we run into a problem. Now this ordinance is specific to, you can't have this on city property. So, but
The question about the city property is what I have a little bit of hard time with. So says city properties like parks, things like that, and right of ways. Does that mean a sidewalk? That's a right of way, right?
part of the right of way,
The cul-de-sac? If it's not in an HOA,
right? Yeah.
or are all cul-de-sacs and HOAs, are those public right of ways by the city? Are all those to the city, or do HOAs own their own roads and stuff?
I think I would be, there may be a few private roads in some of the subdivisions within the city limits. I don't know, maybe.
They are. There
Yeah.
are down by off of Vernon Road.
Yeah.
So the police department is well aware of those?
Mhm.
So sidewalks, and the reason you said that you could carry them to your house across the sidewalk, okay, I get that part. Okay, we have safe and sane side fireworks that I got it Safeway. I'm gonna go in my backyard and, my private property and discharge them, that's fine.
Right.
But you can't do it on the street.
Can't do it on the street.
So the big mess I have on Lake Drive every 4th of
Right.
July or 5th of July is can't no
You
longer.
can't
be-
go in you can't go in the neighborhood cul-de-sac and start shooting them up in the middle of the street. This ordinance would prohibit that.
And the burden of proof of somebody lighting one off, let's say on the sidewalk on Lake Drive, for instance, is there's mortars or there's fireworks that are obviously been fired off right here.
It's a preponderance of the evidence, right? I mean,
They don't have to-
generally,
it used
you'd
to
have
be-
to have, if you're gonna cite somebody, the officer's gonna have some proof that the person you're gonna cite was the one who,
But they didn't have
You know,
they don't have to see them light them off, which is what it has been.
no, they don't have to actually see it if there are other evidence that they have people who can say, yeah, this is the guy that did it. It's like going to a domestic dispute. You may not see the guy take the swing at the victim, but they're gonna have bruises and they're gonna have that, and there's somebody's gonna say, yeah, he's the one that did it.
Can I ask Chief
Same
a
thing.
question about that? If you drive up to a house and you have somebody saying that guy right there just lit this firework, are you gonna cite the person based on that?
You'd have to get a statement and they have to be able to testify in court. If they don't do that, then we don't have no case.
And that's why that's why we're doing the possession thing. Because more than likely that person will still have more fireworks in their possession.
And so it could be, I mean, when we were having this conversation, I remember some frustrations. So we're talking about neighbors against neighbors almost, because who else is going to see that? So you're living in a neighborhood, you've got your neighbor who's shooting off, a bunch of fireworks, and they call the police. There happens to be an officer available, which I think is another big thing on this
Right.
night. And they come, so then that neighbor's like, hey, I saw him shooting off fireworks. He lives right next door to me. I witnessed this.
Yeah.
So as long as they're willing to make a statement and show up in court,
Yeah.
then that person can be cited.
As long as it's in the public right of way.
Mhm.
Right.
Or it's,
Backyard.
or it's an illegal firework.
Or illegal.
I thought the public right of way is exempted.
That's what I thought too.
That's only for possession. It's the use and discharge is prohibited under this code section on all city property, including public right of way. The possession is prohibited on all city property except for right of way.
I'll tell you my concern on that. I would rather, if it's consumer fireworks, them be discharged on the street than in the backyards of 5-foot distances from your neighbor. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Like it's gonna be more dangerous in a backyard of my neighborhood than on the street.
Then they should just be banned.
I remember Public Works making a statement on how it's hazardous.
What's that?
When they're doing street sweeping after 4th of July, it's hazardous material and 10 times the cost of normal street sweeping. So I think that's why that was taken into consideration, is trying to keep it from
Right.
completely polluting our streets and having the citizens have to pay for that cleanup.
Yep. Yeah, I get that. But if we're gonna push people into their backyards, we're gonna burn down more houses every year.
Well, that's not necessarily true. I mean, taking Lake Drive again as an example, one of the houses that burned there a few years ago was across the street from somebody lighting off bottle rockets.
Right, yeah.
So yeah, they're still.
But
on
then- but then
street,
that gets into
it's-
that
but it's
illegal
only
side of things.
18 feet away,
Yeah.
or whatever, whatever it is, 35 feet away. The real issue, I mean, the issue that we really have, there's two things we really have that happen in Lake Stevens. One is the use of illegal fireworks. I mean, that's just a given. It's,
That's not exclusive to Lake Stevens.
and then the other one is that they don't follow the ordinance as it is and just do it on 4th of July. And a lot of people wouldn't have issues if they weren't doing it on the 6th of July at, midnight or whatever.
Well, I think this is a great attempt to try to be more neighborly, try to be more considerate. And it's like we said, it's something to work off of for a
Yeah, I
while.
think so too.
Well, I think also it's respecting that this was just on a vote. We just voted on this, less than 2 years ago?
No,
And the
Almost 4
vote to keep fireworks was what had carried the highest weight. So it's also respecting that, but at the same time, trying to be reasonable in restrictions as well as how much can the police department do? I mean, this is a busy night. So,
And if we publish this, hopefully keep it out of the parks, which have been in.
and schools.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We don't have any jurisdiction over the school district property though.
Yeah, we can't do enforcement on schools because it's private property. So it's not considered city property. So the only place we do would be city property, city parks.
So there's no ordinance against lighting off on school property?
Nope, that's private property.
Wow, okay. That's new.
Well, that's good news. They can take them out of the sidewalks and into the
Yeah.
hills.
They already
Great
do.
idea.
And the problem, one thing, if I could speak, is that the problem is now we talk about consumer grade versus illegal, and where our officers now have to prove what was shot off. Now, is it a civil penalty? Is it a misdemeanor? If it's a misdemeanor, I have got to go collect evidence to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that is a illegal firework. So if somebody's taking all these fireworks and blowing them off, there is a lot of investigation that needs to go into these. So just take that into consideration.
Yeah, I guess I would disagree in that this is a good attempt. It feels like it makes things more confusing. And it creates a situation where there's more questioning and more kind of neighbor versus neighbor, but it doesn't solve any of the problems that we've addressed or that we've identified. So it doesn't, for me personally, doesn't feel like.
Councilmember Donahue.
So first off, I have to apologize. I'm dealing with an IT issue, so all my notes on this on my computer are unavailable. Do you happen by any chance to have the RCW on hand that deals with the discharge of illegal fireworks? I'm trying to look that up for comparison right now.
Oh.
If not, then we.
No, I don't.
Okay.
I found it online and it looks like it's RCW 70.77.
Are you looking for the city municipal code?
No, the state.
Oh, yeah.
The state looks like RCW 70.77.
And then I just need the next three numbers and you've answered my question perfectly.
0.030. I'm just kidding.
Like, that's not on here.
I mean, our discussion of the retreat was how do we enforce what we got in the sense of trying to get our arms around getting notice, I guess, to residents that this is causing a problem. And I would agree with Councilmember Jorstad. I don't think this proposal of an ordinance does that. It confuses the issue, and it gets back to the issue of we're trying to get enforcement, and yet we're making it more difficult to do that.
I would like to see the jurisdictions where fireworks are illegal, the number of citations and the number of prosecutions for that. How many people have served jail or prison time for the discharge of fireworks in our neighboring jurisdictions? Just to get an idea, because if we're going down that route, I mean, I can't imagine when we're not prosecuting property crimes, we're not prosecuting crimes against people, and public defenders have caseloads of it, or prosecutors have a caseload of 1,000 people, is what we were told at a recent meeting. I'm guessing that adding fireworks to that is not going to jump the murder charge of, say, a state patrol person, right? That's not gonna happen.
Well, that was the reason for a civil penalty, right? So the police officer could just write a ticket and say, you know, here's your fine for doing this, right?
For the consumer grade, but for the
Right.
illegal ones, which I think is the main concern. I don't think you're looking about little Susie Q with a sparkler on Cove Park. You're talking about someone lighting off grenades, you know,
Mortars.
essentially
Things
mortars.
like that.
Is the concern on city property is what my takeaway from the retreat was,
Right.
is that those types of things are what we're trying to limit.
Right. And I don't,
Yeah.
hopefully you agree that this ordinance doesn't address that.
Yeah, I
I mean, it talked
consumer
about
grade-
consumer fireworks, so.
I didn't hear a single concern about consumer fireworks at the retreat.
Right.
I heard concerns about illegal fireworks.
Yeah, and the reality of it is illegal fireworks are already illegal.
Illegal.
I
Yeah.
agree.
77, 480, I'd say 45 is unlawful possession of fireworks and penalties, and 77, 488 is the unlawful discharge or use of fireworks. And the penalties, you'll see there's misdemeanor and gross misdemeanor penalties depending upon the amount of fireworks.
But that doesn't include possession. It's just discharge.
Well, no, there is the unlawful possession of fireworks. It's unlawful to possess any class or kind of fireworks in violation of this chapter. A violation of this section is a misdemeanor if involving less than 1 pound of fireworks, or a gross misdemeanor if involving 1 pound or more of fireworks. And then your possession is your illegal fireworks or possessing fireworks during different times of the year that they're not permitted.
Well, I don't want to burn up time digging through this because I have some questions about whether we might be able to thread the needle on this, but that's something I'm happy to talk about offline, depending on time. Because I see 401 deals with the sale of certain fireworks, but not possession. So I guess I'm still looking for something that specifically criminalizes, I mean, it's in the name, illegal firework, but I'm looking for something in this chapter that criminalizes the possession of illegal fireworks that would preempt us from doing that with our ordinance.
So it's under 70.77.485. It's unlawful possession of any class or kind of fireworks in violation of this chapter. A violation in this section is a misdemeanor involving less than 1 pound of fireworks, exclusive external packaging, or gross misdemeanor involving 1 pound or more, exclusive external packaging. For this purpose of the section, external packaging means any materials that are not integral part of the operative of the firework. Then you got to go in and look at all the definitions, because there's like 4 or 5 different definitions for fireworks.
Okay, that's what, because yeah, it says in violation of the chapter, but then where in the chapter is the violation?
Right. That would be, there is a violation for penalty under 255 all the way through till about 900. So there's all those different sections.
Yeah, so again, if we need to look through those, or I'm happy to look through those. I don't want to take up the council's time nitpicking this.
Yeah.
Chief, how hard would it be with your colleagues in other jurisdictions where fireworks are currently banned to just find out what the number of arrests they make and the number of prosecutions? I mean, that would be helpful for me to see, you know, the extent to which, even if we went that route of banning them, we still have them, they're going to be discharged, because I go through they're used throughout all these banned cities. I'm just wondering how many people are being arrested and prosecuted.
I'm curious to know what what would that,
I mean, if it's a frequent thing, you know, say, hey, but if it's not frequent, I mean, it's really, we're going into the enforcement issue. If they're going to cite someone and the prosecutor's not going to pick it up, why are we wasting our staff's resources citing, arresting, book and release? I mean, you have people booked and released on murder charges. So why would they not book and release on a fireworks charge? So if we're going to expend resources, let's be smart about how we're doing it.
I still maintain there are people that are gonna follow the law because it's a law. They're gonna cease that behavior because an ordinance has been passed that makes it illegal. So I don't know that.
Well,
I
but
I
it,
hear what you're saying.
but it's already illegal, isn't it? I mean, the type of activity we're talking about is illegal.
So my experience at Everett, where it's possession is, you cannot have it. My experience was the majority of fireworks you found, you just confiscated and got rid of them. And you wouldn't cite, you would just write them an inventory sheet for what you took from them, take it down to Public Works, throw it in a vat of water and they get disposed of. If you were gonna do some sort of criminal, some sort of action, it would be a citation. But I don't think I've ever heard of anybody going to jail for fireworks unless there was some other contributing factor to it. It was gonna be you're gonna write a citation for it.
And I thought that was the goal, is to write a citation. So people started hearing that, hey, if you have illegal fireworks, you're going to get a citation for it.
But the majority of it is just a confiscation.
Well, but I thought we couldn't do that anymore because it's chief, if I'm remembering correctly, that requires bringing in a bomb squad. Is it?
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
I can't put it in the bucket like the mayor said. That was before, and then it became more volatile. She put it in water and told by the bomb squad, that's new training. Now we don't do that. Call the bomb squad.
Yeah, and it's just, I guess, to add a little background color on this for anybody who might be watching or anyone in the audience. I mean, ban or a citation, the issue is it still involves time on the officer's part. And so the discussion was kind of, okay, you know, if we're going to go to that trouble, as I think Councilmember Ewing was talking about, what is the most effective path through the legal system? And it was thought that maybe a citation, which is easier to prosecute, would be that path.
Could be. Yeah, RCW 7077435 authorizes the seizure of any fireworks that are illegally sold, used, possessed, discharged, or transported in violation of the chapter, and that includes a seizure by local governments or
So,
general law enforcement agencies.
so most of our conversation is around illegal fireworks, and that's not what this is addressing.
No,
So I feel like we are almost addressing the wrong issue here because we don't really have a problem with consumer fireworks, right? You know, the little show out in the backyard with the family and, you know, that type of thing. That's not where our concern is, which is our consumer ones, which also, you know, are a good fundraiser for various, you know, organizations. So I almost feel like this is off point in that it's not addressing really the concern, which
well, if
is
it's,
the more dangerous illegal fireworks.
the issue sounds more of an enforcement issue of
Yes.
what do we do and how can law enforcement agency within the parameters of what the law allows them effectively enforce the unlawful discharge, possession, so forth of fireworks. And tell me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I think probably the biggest problems that law enforcement faces is having the manpower to be able to get around and get to every place that where this might be a problem during the holidays. And then the lack of cooperation among the public in helping them enforce.
Right. It's an enforcement issue of having staffing levels. Then it's taking the enforcement and what does that look like? Because you got evidence of a crime. So now you got to get into the crime lab, and the crime lab will probably about a year and a half, 2 years out to process this, if they even process it, because it is not a felony. And that's what we're running into. And then trying to prosecute, put people into the prosecution part of it is how many people are going to get prosecuted for a misdemeanor, gross misdemeanor involving fireworks. It's a huge issue. I understand it, and it's probability, but you know, the issues that we have is just not on 4th of July. I mean, we have somebody that keeps shooting them off on Sundays. We have people that are all during the time that keep shooting them off that we constantly get complaints about. But again, then it's a misdemeanor, and then it's evidence of a crime. And how much is that going to take to get the officer to process that scene? It becomes a crime scene.
So if you have an outright ban of illegal fireworks, does that not give you a easier route to cite someone?
Because if they shoot it off, but then again, you're got to process it as a crime scene. And the resources that it takes to process that as a misdemeanor and come up with the evidence and process the evidence and everything else. So
It becomes more of a possession crime. You're not,
Yep.
to be able to prove that someone discharged something is pretty
pretty hard.
hard. It becomes a possession thing. It becomes
Yeah.
patrol car drives down the street. There's a whole bunch of fireworks ready to get shot off. Who owns these? I do. Possession. But
But again, without a outright ban, you can't.
you
do
can't get
that.
there. Yeah. Well, you can be there now because they're illegal, the majority.
But the issue I heard the chief say is that differentiating between consumer fireworks and illegal fireworks is also
Yeah.
difficult.
Yes, it is very difficult because our officers don't have the training. And majority of people don't have the training.
Sure.
I mean, the fire marshal, you try to ask him and he says that some of the ordinance stuff we have in our ordinance is legal fireworks. So it's getting that training, getting somebody that's trained up in ability to decipher what is legal, what's not illegal. I mean, we can tell you, some of the mortars, the M180s, those kinds, or M80s and those kinds of things, but a normal, if you look at the sheet that I had, I think I sent it to Gene at one time, there's a whole display of all these different fireworks that are legal and illegal. But how many different fireworks are out in Boom City now? I mean, there's hundreds and hundreds of different types of fireworks. So are they legal? Are they not legal?
So how about, I mean, there's numerous cities around us that have obviously banned illegal fireworks. So why don't we gather that information from those jurisdictions and see how they're handling it? Because obviously they're doing something.
Well,
I mean, we're,
but what they've done is they banned all fireworks to
Yep.
include consumers. So you don't have to have this issue of, is it consumer or is it illegal? Because they're already illegal. Right? Like anything that probably 99% of the stuff that comes off Boom City is illegal. Right? So you have to, it's an all or nothing proposition. And that's what those other cities are doing.
With the type of firework, but couldn't we just still have the window where people are allowed to shoot them off on the 4th of July, like even extend it?
You do consumer.
Right. And then, but all other times, what's the current state? Is it possession or is it discharge? I guess what I'm asking.
Well, our code doesn't, if you look in chapter 940 there, it doesn't, it restricts the times that people can use or discharge commercial fireworks.
But not possess.
So what if
Not
we,
But not possess.
so what if we create a window where we don't have to, where anytime outside of that possession is what we're looking at?
But you already do. If I pull you over tomorrow and you just came from Boom City and your back seat's full of mortars and I can see them, that's already illegal.
But that goes back to the illegal fireworks. I'm talking about
Consumer.
including both outside of the time, because going back to what Councilmember Shipman said, there was a vote on this and people were in favor of being able to light off fireworks. So I'm asking if we can create a window where possession is allowed sufficient so that they can get them, bring them home, light them off, but then outside of that, possession is illegal. I see Chief smiling. I don't know if he has any thoughts on that.
Well, you just got to make sure you say consumer fireworks because not all fireworks are legal. So you're going to have to say consumer fireworks.
Right.
The illegal fireworks coming off Boom City is illegal all the time. You can't give them an open window to say you can go to Boom City and bring home fireworks.
illegal is illegal.
Right.
And then you're still putting law enforcement in the place of having to differentiate between the two.
Between the two.
Well, why would you have to differentiate? Because if fireworks
During that window.
Oh, well, what I'm saying is during the window, yeah, you're probably not be able to differentiate, but at least you're controlling, the people that light them off until 3 a.m. or the people that do it every Sunday, I'm trying to look at this as how can we make it better than what it is and start moving things in the right direction?
It comes down to an all or nothing ban
I agree.
on possession.
I mean, I don't know. I still feel
I'll be the first to concede, even with an all-out ban, it's not going to stop.
But there are going to be people who make different choices. And after a year or 2 or 3 of enforcement, that becomes easier when they're fully banned.
So
That behavior is gonna start to extinguish.
So it becomes an all or nothing ban, and then the council has to be prepared to pay the overtime so that officers are doing just that work and have the ability that when they show up on Lakeshore Drive, whatever dock, and the dock's lined up with mortars, that when they possess all of those fireworks, right, how are we gonna process that? That you've got to be prepared to spend that money on officer time and
Riot squad.
squad at that point.
We put like the
That-
bomb squad on retainer for 24 hours? Is that just have them?
They're working
There's
on-
only 3 bomb squads in the state of Washington.
I guess I keep coming back to, I don't understand why it has to be an all or nothing ban. I don't see why we can't create a window. And I mean, yes, the reality of it is there's going to be a mix of consumer and illegal. But outside of that, everything is banned.
Well, so you're talking about a window for possession,
Correct,
not for discharge.
correct,
Right now, we have a window for discharge.
correct.
But the challenge
The window-
isn't
window-
with commercial fireworks. So I think putting more ordinances on commercial fireworks, which are your safe and sanes, right? I don't think that's going to address any
It's not.
significant challenges. And illegal fireworks are already illegal, so you're just stacking on top of something that's already illegal. So I wouldn't want to discourage people from buying commercial fireworks. I mean, like them or not, they're an American tradition. And the little sparklers and cones and stuff that you get up in the Safeway parking lot aren't keeping people up till 3 a.m. So discouraging people from buying those by putting all these regulations out there, I don't think is addressing the issue. It's just going to irritate a bunch of people.
So the way that I'm reading this, though, I think that it already does what you're saying.
It's supposed to.
Well, I think that it has, the possession is already covered by this because they're allowing possession even on right of way to get to your house with them and what they sell 2 weeks is about it. And then the discharge is covered by the other part of the ordinance where it's only on the 4th of July between 9 a.m. and midnight, and that's it. So I don't think the possession is a problem because they're not going to go possessing them on public property. They're possessing them and taking them home. I don't think that's an issue. And I think that this really does accomplish what you're saying without having to change any of the words on it. The real issue is the discharge on public property or possession on public property. They just they can't have possession on public property except for right of way, getting into their property, crossing the sidewalk.
Okay, if I understood that, does that still leave open the issue that the mayor was talking about though, where you're forcing people to possess them on private property?
No, this doesn't cover anything about private property.
That's what I mean,
This ordinance does not say anything about private property at all.
right? So if it's only banned on,
But it prohibits the discharge.
We do prohibit the discharge.
Public right.
Every 364 days a year, we prohibit the discharge
But this
Already.
prohibits discharge on public property.
and in discharge on public property. Yeah.
Right. So it does move people into their yards for
That's right.
discharge.
Right. Most people, if you, at least my observation is that most people don't want to shoot out the fireworks on their own front lawn or their backyard for the
Mhm.
very reasons that we talked about. And I remember what my mom told me about where I would shoot fireworks and I couldn't. So they go looking for places where there's a lot of room, and where is that? City parks, right?
Streets.
Streets.
cul-de-sacs.
Yeah, that's where they go to,
Schools.
they go to shoot them. Now, this ordinance would say you can't do that.
Fill
You
people
can't
up.
go to the neighborhood park to shoot them. You can't go out to the
Like,
cul-de-sac
it's summer.
and shoot them. So,
But again, we
It
get back to
wants-
the core issue,
yeah.
the consumer fireworks are not the problem. And that's what this addresses.
well, I don't know. Yeah,
This doesn't
Well,
address it.
I know.
there's a whole, you go in that chapter 77, there's a whole list of restrictions.
Illegal is illegal.
And
already.
what's
I don't know
illegal?
why we keep fighting this illegal fireworks. We can't do anything.
It's an enforcement.
Already illegal.
It's just an
Why
enforcement.
do we keep going down the road of illegal? They're already illegal.
Just an enforcement issue. That's all it is.
It's an enforcement issue. It's pretty much.
It's an enforcement issue, whether we ban them, outright ban them, or do any of this ordinance. It's an enforcement issue, no matter what we do.
Mhm.
And all you're doing is you're relying on law-abiding citizens to follow the law. And the ones that don't care, don't care.
Everyone's got a phone. They're gonna take pictures of people putting off illegal fireworks and turn them in and do whatever they want to do if they're doing them on the streets. Part of what we talked about at the retreat was getting them off the public right of ways and get them out of our parks.
Yep.
And that's what this does.
And I
No,
would like
that's-
to add, if I can, just a reminder for parks, there is an issue with both consumer and illegal fireworks. We do see both being shut off in parks, even though right now it is
Just gets
illegal
rid
to
of that.
discharge. So I do think it is important to address the possession within parks, even if you don't proceed with the general right of way.
That's good to know. Thank you.
Chief, I have a question for you. Under our existing fireworks ordinance, it talks about the police department will develop a flyer which will be attached to all land use permits issued for fireworks stands. And the operator shall be responsible for reproducing and distributing the flyer to purchasers. Does that take place?
He's not listening.
What's that?
He didn't hear you.
Oh, I gotta repeat that.
Sorry, I was talking to the IT director.
Under our existing ordinance right now, 964-010C, it talks about the police department is to develop a flyer that's attached to all land use permits issued for fireworks stands. And the operator is responsible for reproducing and distributing the flyer to purchasers. I'm assuming that details the, when they're allowed to be discharged and so forth. Does that happen right now?
Nope, I've never done it.
Okay.
And I don't think Russ. Nope.
Okay,
They issue the permit, so.
yeah, okay.
But is that a requirement of the permit? Is there language in the permit that
What's the
that requires the,
Code, it's in the codes.
Yeah.
I'm assuming that it is.
yeah, maybe that's a check off on the checklist of the permit that we require the seller to do that?
That's what it says. It's
Yeah.
So that's what it says.
So it kind of gets back to.
Right now,
our-
because I haven't directly looked at a firework permit in probably 10 years, but
Yeah.
I can find out the information.
I mean, it all gets back to enforcement. So.
Yeah.
I think Ryan's proposal, your discussion was how do we kind of make it easier for the police department to enforce this?
Exactly. Yeah.
Unfortunately, that sounds rather impossible.
Well, and that's why, I mean, it sounds like Greg has looked at that. I still combing through this, looking for anything that, might work, but that would be my hope is, if we could find a way to craft something that allows us to take advantage of that lower burden of proof. But I guess what I'm saying is I don't know if I'm ready to say impossible yet, but it sounds like it's not going to be easy if it can be done.
Well, again, I would offer that, we talk to surrounding jurisdictions and see how they do it. I mean, I believe Marysville they probably have more illegal fireworks going through their city than probably any jurisdiction. They've outlawed fireworks or banned fireworks. I don't know, 5 years ago or something. And my understanding is they simply write a ticket. So I don't know why we can't do that.
Well, that's effectively, yeah, what I was hoping we would do is
Right, yeah.
cite them. And so, but yeah, I guess
So
then
how do they do it?
exactly, we'll have to look at the Marysville code.
So maybe we grabbed a couple of fireworks disposal policies from say Everett and Marysville. See how they,
Mill Creek or Arlington or something?
yeah, see how they expect their officers to dispose of it. And maybe it is, but I show up at Ryan's place, you have illegal fireworks, I just write you a citation, take a picture of them. That's my case, and I expect you to throw them in the water. I don't know. I don't know.
So I think the intent though, from the retreat, and I want to respect Director Garceau's position, if we want to protect city property, I mean, especially, I mean, that was the focus of the discussion was city parks and city property. If something similar to this, as Director Garceau indicated, that we have consumer fireworks that are being used on city property. And if we properly notice that, we make it clear that it's illegal and we notice it. I would agree with Councilmember Jorstad that I think some people will adhere to that because it's law and it's the right thing to do. And so to the extent to which we can notice at least the parks and prominent city properties to limit that, I think that's our primary concern with this right now, because otherwise, even with an outright ban, we still have an enforcement issue. So I don't know, what did we do last year to notice the parks that fireworks were illegal?
Puts big signs up at the entrance of the parks or the parks.
Which wasn't covered by the ordinance. We just put signs up. It's not, wasn't illegal. We just put signs up, don't do it.
So
The
hypothetically,
ordinance-
we pass this ordinance.
Fireworks are-
Yeah, if they're illegal
Until
fireworks.
now,
What's that?
the parks weren't in our ordinance until now.
So the ordinance last year and the prior year would have said no discharging of fireworks, and that is the social media push that we put out. We put it in the city newsletter and then do signage on site. So it has been still in the ordinance that you can't fire them off for years. What we're
So
asking is for the
so
new
it was
edition of the
discharge,
possession.
not possession. So we've added possession is what we did.
Right.
Okay, got it.
Chief, could I ask you a question? So if, say, you're just out doing patrols, right? And you see this happening at one of our parks. So if we have the ability to just cite them, it's not a criminal charge, they're just gonna get a ticket. So you write them a ticket because you can see they're discharging, but they still have some left, right? We got to bring a bomb squad in to remove it, which is not a feasible thing. So do we just write them a ticket, tell them to pack up their stuff and leave? Would that be,
But they're taking those illegal, it depends on what type of fireworks, number one. If they're doing consumer grade fireworks, so you could probably do that, but if they're illegal fireworks, now we're sending them down the road with the illegal fireworks, then what kind of risk do you want to take as a city for us to
Yeah.
do that?
You're still allowing them to possess them, but they have extras to drive away with.
so we either choose a blind or, a blind eye to it all, even though we know they're breaking code, they're doing something illegal. Because if we stop and then try and stop them, we have to call a bomb squad in if they have any remaining fireworks that aren't consumer fireworks, correct? Because consumer fireworks, we could send with them. Cite them, say you can't discharge these here, take your sparklers and go home. But if they had the appearance of being illegal, then we can't let them leave with them. And it requires the police department to call in a bomb squad to remove them. Am I understanding that correctly?
Close.
We're shooting a lot of things around here. I think it'd be, if we could get some other jurisdictions' inputs and see how they're dealing with it, maybe that would give us some
think that would
guidance
be
rather
helpful.
than
Yeah.
theorizing everything.
Yeah, let's grab some policy, other disposal policies, see how those are looking, maybe for Everett and Marysville.
Not only the policies, but I think Councilmember Ewing had a good point. How many citations are they putting out?
Yeah,
Not
I've asked
necessarily-
Marysville, I've already asked Marysville to go up and look at Marysville and what they've done. I've asked our prosecutor if he's tried any cases for fireworks in the past 5 years.
Well, I'm
So-
sure they haven't prosecuted any. I'm just wondering if they've cited anybody, here's.
Well, Marysville is
$150
cited, yeah, I
ticket.
know Marysville's gone out, they did a whole overtime enforcement, went out and cited people with an infraction. I don't know how much the infraction is and sent them into the courts, but I don't know what the disposition is with those infractions. The courts are dismissing them or if they're holding them accountable, I don't know.
I guess I'd also like to hear, just, even if it's just anecdotal, do they have less to do on the 4th of July because there's a decrease in illegal fireworks since passing? the ordinance?
I don't know how to handle to get that data because it's hard to say. I mean, do you say that there's less fireworks? I don't know. How would you know that?
If are there fewer overtime hours? Are there fewer citations? Are they experiencing?
I mean, the people are probably still having parties and get-togethers,
Yeah, they're still doing it.
issues, so they're still getting together, so I doubt that there's less police enforcement that night.
I
Getting
would,
together isn't illegal.
I
Drinking,
think you have to compare to how we are in Lake Stevens compared to, Everett who's had this for quite a while, there's very, very few fireworks that go off in Everett
Hmm.
compared to
Agreed.
what we have going on, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Move on.
we'll do a little homework.
All right, cool. So I guess we're executive session here. Need to make an announcement, Caitlin?
Yes, thank you. At 6:52 PM and council will be going into executive session under RCW 423110 for potential litigation and property acquisition. They've asked for approximately 40 minutes. There will be no action to follow. So this puts us at a return time of approximately 7:32 PM. Okay, we're live. We are live. We ready? It's 7:34 and council has come back from executive session.
All right, motion to adjourn. All those in favor?
Yay.
And we're adjourned.